The penthouse suite of the Sterling Tower was a monument to corporate conquest, all polished marble and floor-to-ceiling windows that made the city of Ethelberg look like a glittering toy kingdom below. At 34, Margot Sterling commanded an empire her grandfather had built and she had tripled. She was ruthless, brilliant, and notoriously impossible to please. Her board members scheduled their panic attacks around her quarterly reviews. Her assistants lasted an average of 6 weeks. Her reputation as the "Steel Magnolia" of Ethelberg's business elite was well-earned and fiercely protected. From the outside, her life was a masterpiece of modern success. The corner office. The private jet. The penthouse with the panoramic views. The name that made competitors break into cold sweats during shareholder meetings. But inside the fortress she had constructed around her heart, something was dying. A slow, quiet erosion of hope that she had stopped trying to name years ago. Her marriage to Julian Whitmore, a venture capitalist with a charming smile and a wandering eye, had ended in a tabloid scandal that still made her stomach turn when she saw his face on magazine covers. He had taken half her fortune, her dignity, and her ability to trust anyone ever again. She had poured herself into work, convinced that success was the only love that wouldn't betray her. Then the diagnosis came. Premature ovarian failure. The words had landed like a death sentence in her doctor's sterile office. She would never carry a child. The news had broken something inside her that she couldn't repair. She had always imagined a family, a house filled with laughter, little feet running down hallways. It was the one dream her money couldn't buy. So she buried it deep, alongside everything else that hurt, and focused on what she could control: her company, her legacy, her carefully constructed walls. It was a Tuesday evening when everything changed. The kind of autumn evening where the setting sun painted the sky in bruised shades of purple and orange, and the wind carried the first bite of winter. Margot had stayed late, as usual, going over acquisition documents for a hostile takeover she was orchestrating. Her lawyer had warned her it was unethical. Her board had called it aggressive. She called it business. She was walking through the lobby of the Sterling Tower, her heels clicking an impatient rhythm against the marble, when she saw him. He was standing near the security desk, his back to her, his broad shoulders straining against a worn leather jacket. A little girl was perched on his hip, her small arms wrapped around his neck, her face buried in his shoulder. She looked exhausted, her pigtails askew, her little shoes dangling. Another child, a boy of about 6, was holding his hand, looking up at him with wide, worried eyes. The man turned slightly, and Margot caught a glimpse of his profile. He was devastatingly handsome in a way that seemed almost accidental: dark, slightly tousled hair, a strong jaw with a hint of stubble, and the kind of tired but gentle eyes that made her chest ache for reasons she didn't want to examine. He was speaking softly to the security guard, his voice too low for her to hear. Then he turned fully, and their eyes met. The world seemed to stop. Margot felt a jolt of recognition, though she was certain she had never seen him before. It was something else. Something primal and terrifying. His eyes were the color of warm honey, and they held a depth of pain and resilience that mirrored her own. For a moment, neither of them moved. "Margot?" a voice called from behind her. It was her assistant, a nervous young man named Peter, rushing toward her with a stack of files. "I'm so sorry to bother you, but the board needs your signature on the—" "Not now," she said, her voice sharper than intended. She didn't take her eyes off the man. "Miss Sterling?" The security guard's voice broke the spell. "This gentleman was just asking about the after-school program we sponsor. He's been having trouble getting his son enrolled." Margot blinked, forcing herself to focus. "The after-school program is for employees' children." "I know," the man said, his voice a low, melodic baritone. "And I know I don't work here. But I was hoping someone could make an exception. My son, Theo, he's been struggling in school. The teachers say he just needs a little extra help, some structure. The center near our apartment closed down last month, and I don't have anywhere else to turn. She looked down at the little boy. He was small for his age, with his father's dark hair and eyes that looked too old for his face. He was clutching a battered notebook to his chest, his knuckles white. He looked terrified. And then, without warning, the little girl in his arms lifted her head. Her face was flushed, her cheeks streaked with tears. She had the same honey-colored eyes as her father, and they were swollen from crying. "Daddy, my tummy hurts," she whimpered. The man's face crumpled with worry. "I know, sweetheart. We're going to get you home soon." Margot felt something crack inside her chest. The walls she had built around her heart, the carefully constructed fortress, suddenly felt like paper. She stepped forward before she could stop herself. "Come with me," she said. The man looked at her, startled. "Excuse me?" "My office. It's on the 53rd floor. I have a private elevator." She was already walking toward it, her heels clicking a command. "The program. I'll make an exception. Just follow me." She didn't look back to see if they were following. She knew they would. She had the kind of presence that demanded obedience. In her office, she watched as the man settled his daughter onto the leather couch, his movements gentle and practiced. He pulled a small stuffed rabbit from his worn backpack and placed it in her arms. The little girl, whose name she learned was Luna, clutched it and closed her eyes, her breathing evening out. Theo sat beside his sister, his notebook open, showing her his drawings of rockets and stars. "She's been sick all week," the man said, running a hand through his hair. His name, she had learned, was Griffin. Griffin Thorne. It suited him. Strong and resilient, like a tree that had weathered many storms. "I couldn't leave her with the neighbor again. She has her own kids to take care of. And my ex-wife, well, she's not in the picture." Margot sat behind her massive desk, trying to regain some semblance of control. She felt utterly unmoored. "I'll have Peter get you some forms. Consider Theo enrolled." Griffin looked at her, his eyes soft with gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you. This means everything. Theo, say thank you to the nice lady." The little boy looked up from his notebook. "Thank you, ma'am," he said, his voice small but earnest. "I'll be really good. I promise." Margot felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She blinked them away, furious at herself. She did not cry. She had not cried in years. Not when Julian left. Not when the doctor delivered the diagnosis. Not once. "Your drawings are beautiful," she said instead. "Are you going to be an artist?" Theo shook his head. "An astronaut. I want to go to the moon." "An astronaut," she repeated, a small smile tugging at her lips. "That's a very ambitious goal." "I'll make it," he said, his chin lifting with fierce determination. "Daddy says I can do anything I set my mind to." Griffin's smile was a punch to the gut. "He's been saying that since he was 3. Luna stirred on the couch, her little hand reaching out. "Daddy, I'm thirsty." Griffin was on his feet instantly, pulling a bottle from his bag. But Margot was faster. She had already crossed the room, a bottle of water from her mini fridge in her hand. She knelt beside the couch, her expensive silk blouse brushing against the worn upholstery, and helped the little girl sip. "You're so pretty," Luna murmured, her eyes half closed. "Like a princess." Margot's heart turned over. "Thank you, sweetheart." She stayed in that position, kneeling on the floor, helping a sick child drink water, while her multi-million-dollar empire waited on hold. And for the first time in years, she felt something other than ambition. She felt purpose. Over the next few weeks, Margot found herself making excuses to visit the after-school program. She told herself it was to check on the implementation of the new curriculum. She told herself it was to ensure her donation was being used effectively. She told herself it was anything other than the truth, that she was falling in love with Griffin Thorne and his two beautiful children. Theo was thriving. His grades were improving, and he had made friends. Luna was no longer sick, and she spent her time in the program's art room, creating drawings that Margot secretly framed and hung in her office. Griffin was there every afternoon to pick them up, his tired smile making her knees weak. She learned his story slowly, in pieces. How he had been a contractor, building homes for families, until the recession had destroyed his business. How his wife had left him shortly after Luna was born, unable to cope with the financial strain and the demands of motherhood. How he had spent the last 5 years working odd jobs, construction, landscaping, delivery driving, anything to keep a roof over his children's heads. How he had never complained. Not once. He deserves better, Margot told herself, watching him from the window of her office as he played catch with Theo in the community center's small yard. He deserves someone who can give him everything. But she knew she couldn't. She was broken. Incomplete. A woman who couldn't give him the one thing he might want, more children. A son to carry his name, a daughter to spoil. She pushed the thought away, refusing to let it poison the fragile happiness she had found. Then came the night of the autumn gala. It was the biggest charitable event of the season, a glittering affair at the Grand Majestic Hotel. Margot had donated a significant amount, and as a major patron, she was expected to attend. She had planned to go alone, as she always did, to smile for the cameras and network with potential investors. But at the last minute, she had invited Griffin. "You can't be serious," he had said, looking down at his worn jacket. "I don't have anything to wear." "Then I'll buy you something," she had replied, already dialing her personal shopper. He had looked at her with those honey-colored eyes, his expression unreadable. "Margot, what are we doing?" "I don't know," she had admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I want you there." He had come. He had worn the expensive tuxedo she had bought him, and he had looked like a movie star. She had introduced him as a business associate, which was technically true. Theo and Luna had stayed with Griffin's mother, who had flown in from out of state for the occasion. It was the first time they had been alone together, away from the children, away from the chaos of everyday life. The gala was everything Margot had expected: champagne, caviar, and the kind of forced small talk that made her want to scream. But Griffin's presence changed everything. He was warm, genuine, and utterly unimpressed by the wealth and status around him. He made her laugh, something she had almost forgotten she could do. He held her hand under the table, his thumb tracing small circles on her palm, and she felt her walls crumbling. "Can we get some air?" he whispered, leaning close. His breath was warm against her ear. She nodded, and they slipped out onto the balcony. The night was crisp and clear, the city spread out before them like a carpet of stars. The sounds of the gala faded, replaced by the distant hum of traffic and the occasional laugh from inside. "I feel like Cinderella," Griffin said, leaning against the railing. "Except I'm the one who showed up to the ball in a fancy suit." "You're not Cinderella," Margot said, laughing. "You're Prince Charming." He turned to look at her, his eyes warm. "And you're the princess. The most beautiful, intimidating princess I've ever met." She felt her cheeks flush. "I'm not a princess. I'm a CEO. There's a difference." "I don't see one," he said softly. "You're the most incredible woman I've ever known, Margot. You're strong, and you're brilliant, and you're kind. Even when you're pretending not to be." She looked away, her throat tight. "You don't know me." "Not really. There are things about me that would change the way you see me." "Like what?" he asked, his voice gentle. She shook her head. "I can't. Not now." Margot. He reached out and took her hand. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. I don't care about your money. I don't care about your status. I care about you. The woman who knelt on the floor to help my daughter drink water. The woman who secretly frames my son's drawings and hangs them in her office. Her breath caught. How did you? I saw them, he said, smiling. When I picked up Theo last week. I looked through your office door. You have a whole wall of his work. She felt tears prick at her eyes. He's so talented. I wanted him to know that. I wanted him to be proud of himself. He's proud, Griffin said. He talks about you constantly. He wants to be like you. The way you run your company, the way you help people. He thinks you're a superhero. I'm not a superhero, she whispered. I'm just a woman who's been running away from her own life for so long that I don't know how to stop. Then stop, he said simply. Stop running, Margot. I'm right here. And I'm not going anywhere. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to fall into his arms and let herself be loved. But the fear was too strong. The fear of being hurt again, the fear of disappointing him, the fear of being incomplete. I need to tell you something, she said, her voice trembling. Something about me. Something that might change everything. He waited, his eyes patient, his hand still holding hers. I can't have children, she said, the words tumbling out in a rush. The doctors said it's impossible. I'll never be able to carry a child. And I know you have Theo and Luna, and I love them so much it hurts, but I know someday you might want more. Another child. A baby of your own. And I can't give you that. I'm broken, Griffin. I'm incomplete. He was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he raised her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles. You are not broken, he said, his voice fierce. You are the most complete person I've ever met. And I don't want more children, Margot. I have 2 children. They're enough. They're more than enough. And they love you. They talk about you all the time. Luna said she wants to be a princess just like you. She said that? Margot whispered. She said it, Griffin confirmed. And Theo said he wants to build a rocket so he can take you to the moon. They don't need anything else. They have you. They have me. We're a family. We're already a family, Margot. You just have to let us be. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. I'm so scared, she admitted. I'm so scared of losing this. Of losing you. You're not going to lose us, he said, pulling her into his arms. I'm not going anywhere. I love you, Margot Sterling. I love you, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life showing you that. She pulled back, looking into his eyes. I love you too, she said, her voice breaking. I think I've loved you since the moment I saw you. He smiled, that devastating smile that made her heart race. Then let's go home. But happiness, Margot had learned, was never simple. It came with strings, with complications, with people who wanted to pull them apart. A week after the gala, Margot was in a meeting with her board. They were discussing the hostile takeover she had been orchestrating, the one her lawyer had warned her was unethical. She had been distracted, her mind wandering to Griffin and the children, when Peter burst into the room, his face pale. Ms. Sterling, he said, his voice shaking. There's something you need to see. He handed her his tablet. On the screen was a tabloid headline, CEO's Secret Love, Sterling Cinderella Man Exposed. Below it was a photograph of Griffin. But he wasn't alone. He was standing outside a coffee shop, his arm around a woman who was not Margot. She was tall and elegant, with hair the color of spun gold, and she was laughing at something he had said. They were leaning close, their foreheads almost touching. The caption read, "Griffin Thorne, the mysterious man who has captured the steel magnolia's heart, was spotted this morning with an unknown beauty." Is the CEO being played? Margot's blood ran cold. She stared at the photograph, her mind racing. Who was this woman? Why was Griffin with her? He had told her he didn't have anyone else. He had told her he loved her. "Get out," she said, her voice flat. "All of you. Now." The board scrambled to leave. Peter lingered, his face full of concern. "Miss Sterling, are you?" "I said get out." The door clicked shut behind him, and Margot was alone. She stared at the photograph, her heart pounding. The betrayal was a physical pain, a knife twisting in her chest. She had trusted him. She had let him in. She had let herself believe that she could have happiness, that she could have a family. And now this. She called him. It went to voicemail. She called again. Voicemail. She texted, "We need to talk. Now." No response. The hours crawled by. Margot cancelled her meetings. She sat in her office, staring at the photograph, her mind spinning with possibilities. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe she had misunderstood. Maybe he had an explanation. But when she finally reached him, the next morning, she was too hurt to listen. "Who is she?" she demanded, her voice icy. "Who is the woman you were with?" "Margot, I can explain." "Explain what?" She cut him off. "That you've been lying to me? That you've been playing me for a fool? I trusted you, Griffin. I trusted you, and I let you into my life, and this is what I get? Please, just let me." "No," she said, her voice breaking. "I saw you with another woman. I saw the way you were looking at her. And I don't want to hear your excuses. I don't want to hear anything. It's over. Do you understand me? It's over." She hung up before he could respond. Then she turned off her phone, sat down at her desk, and cried. She cried for the family she had almost had. She cried for Theo and Luna, the children she had grown to love. She cried for herself, the lonely, broken woman who had let herself believe in love again. The weeks that followed were the darkest of her life. She threw herself back into work, burying herself in meetings and deals and acquisitions. She stopped going to the after-school program. She stopped answering Griffin's calls. She blocked his number, his email, every way he had of reaching her. She told herself it was for the best. She told herself she didn't need him. She told herself she was fine. She was not fine. Theo's drawings still hung on her office wall. She couldn't bring herself to take them down. They were a reminder of everything she had lost, everything she had almost had. She would stand in front of them late at night, her fingers tracing the lines of his rockets and stars, and she would cry. Then, a month later, she received a letter. It was from Luna. The little girl's handwriting was clumsy, the letters uneven and oversized. "Dear Margot. I miss you. Daddy says you're busy, but I think you're sad. I'm sad too. I made you a picture. It's of you and me and Theo and Daddy. We're all holding hands. I hope you like it. Please come back soon. I love you. Love. Luna." Margot read the letter 3 times. On the 4th, she started crying. She couldn't stop. The tears came in great, heaving sobs that shook her entire body. She had been so blind. So afraid. She had let her fear and her pride destroy the only good thing in her life. She had pushed away the man she loved, the children who loved her, without even giving them a chance to explain. She called Griffin. He answered on the first ring. "Margot? I'm sorry, she said, her voice breaking. I'm so sorry. I was so scared. I was so hurt. I didn't give you a chance to explain. I pushed you away. And I've regretted it every single day. It's okay, he said softly. I understand. I should have told you about her. I was going to tell you, but I wanted to wait until I was sure it was going to work out. Who is she? Margot asked. Please, just tell me. I need to know. There was a pause. Then Griffin spoke, his voice trembling. She's my sister. Margot's world tilted. What? Her name is Grace. She's my twin sister. She was abroad for the last 7 years, doing humanitarian work in Africa. She just came back last month. I was at the coffee shop with her, catching up. I was going to introduce you. I wanted to, so badly. But I wanted to give you time. I knew you were scared, and I didn't want to overwhelm you. I was going to tell you at the gala, but you told me about your diagnosis, and I didn't want to pile on more. I thought I'd wait until you were ready. Margot was speechless. Your sister, she repeated. She's your sister. She is, Griffin confirmed. I should have told you. I should have been honest from the beginning. I'm so sorry, Margot. I never meant to hurt you. I love you. I've loved you from the moment I saw you. And I know I made a mistake. I know I should have told you. But please, please give me a chance to make it right. Margot was crying again, but this time they were tears of relief. Of joy. I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry I didn't trust you. I should have. You have never given me a reason to doubt you. I was so scared of losing you that I pushed you away. You're not going to lose me, Griffin said firmly. I'm not going anywhere. I told you that before, and I meant it. I love you, Margot. And I want to spend the rest of my life with you. The girls, the boys, we're a family. You and me and Theo and Luna. It's already done. We just need to claim it. Can I see you? She asked, her voice small. Can I see the children? They're right here, Griffin said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. They've been asking about you every single day. Luna has been saving her drawings. Theo has been reading about rocket science so he can impress you. I want to see them, Margot said. I want to see all of you. Tonight. I don't want to wait another minute. Then come home, Griffin said. We're waiting for you. She drove to his house, her hands trembling on the steering wheel. She barely remembered the journey. All she could think about was seeing his face, hearing his voice, holding him in her arms. When she pulled up to the small, modest house, Griffin was waiting on the porch. Theo and Luna were beside him, their faces bright with excitement. Mama! Luna screamed, running toward the car. Margot didn't correct her. She didn't have the heart. She knelt down and opened her arms, and the little girl crashed into her. I missed you so much, Luna sobbed. I thought you forgot about me. I could never forget about you, Margot said, her voice thick with tears. Never. I love you, Luna. I love you so much. Theo joined them, his arms wrapping around both of them. Are you coming back? He asked. Are you staying? I'm staying, Margot promised. I'm not going anywhere. Griffin approached, his eyes shining. He knelt beside them, wrapping his arms around all three of them. Welcome home, he said softly. I'm sorry, Margot whispered. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you. It's okay, he said, kissing her forehead. We're together now. That's all that matters. 3 months later, they were married. It was a small ceremony in the garden of Margot's penthouse, the same penthouse that had once felt so cold and empty. Now it was filled with laughter and love. Theo was the ring-bearer, walking down the aisle with a solemn expression that made everyone laugh. Luna was the flower girl, scattering petals with wild abandon, completely unconcerned about the mess she was making. Griffin's sister Grace was there, her golden hair gleaming in the sunlight. She was exactly as warm and kind as Griffin had described, and she and Margot had become fast friends. The tabloids had been forced to retract their story, printing a groveling apology that Margot had framed and hung in her office, right next to Theo's latest drawing of the moon. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, one of Luna's friends from the community center yelled, "Can we have cake now?" and everyone burst into laughter. It was chaotic, imperfect, and absolutely perfect. And when it was time for the vows, Margot looked into Griffin's eyes and spoke from her heart. "I thought I had it all," she said, her voice steady. "I had the money, the power, the success. But I was empty. I was alone. And then I met you. You showed me what it means to love. You showed me that family isn't about biology, or blood, or the things you can't control. Family is about the people who show up, who love you, who fight for you. You and Theo and Luna, you are my family. And I promise to love you, to protect you, to be there for you for the rest of my life. I promise to never pull away again, no matter how scared I am. Because with you, I'm not scared. I'm home." Griffin's eyes were full of tears. "I promise to love you," he said, his voice rough. "I promise to never let you feel alone. I promise to always be there, to always fight for you, to always show up. You are not broken, Margot. You are the most complete person I know. And I will spend the rest of my life proving to you how much you mean to me." The children ran up and hugged them both, and the small crowd erupted in applause. It was the happiest moment of Margot's life. Now, 5 years later, Margot sat in her office, now the CEO of the Sterling Thorne Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to helping underprivileged families access education and healthcare. She had stepped down from the corporate world, choosing a life of meaning over a life of money. She was happier than she had ever been. Her phone buzzed. A text from Griffin. "Ready to head to the park. Theo is trying to build a rocket in the backyard, and Luna just covered the cat in glitter. You're the only one who can calm them down. The only one who can calm me down." She smiled, a warm, genuine smile. She looked at the framed picture on her desk, the four of them, arms around each other, laughing at the camera. Theo was now a brilliant young scientist, already accepted into a prestigious engineering program. Luna was a talented artist, her work displayed in galleries across the city. And Griffin. Griffin was still the same kind-hearted, resilient man she had fallen in love with all those years ago. He was her partner, her best friend, her rock. She typed back, "On my way. Tell them Mama's coming." She put on her coat and headed out the door, her heels clicking a confident rhythm on the marble floor. She was no longer the steel magnolia of Ethelberg. She was Margot Thorne, wife, mother, and the happiest woman in the world. She had finally found the family she always dreamed of. And she was never letting go. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, and Margot knew, deep in her heart, that this was exactly where she was meant to be. Not in a cold, empty penthouse, but in a warm, chaotic house filled with love and laughter. She had learned, finally, that true success isn't measured in money or power. It's measured in the hearts you touch and the lives you change. And she had changed the lives of 3 people, her husband and her children. Just as they had changed hers. She was Margot Thorne, and she was finally, completely, undeniably whole.